Joining me now for more, Assemblywoman Eldridge Spencer, who serves as Deputy Speaker and is the sponsor of several gun control measures in the Assembly, and former police officer and former Orange Mayor Eldridge Hawkins, who is the owner of Black Belt Security and Investigations, LLC. Thank you both so very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me back.
First of all, let me ask you, former mayor, you support having police officers in school. Why is that?
Absolutely. I think that we have to be realistic. Times have changed, and in the wake of the Connecticut shooting and other shootings that have happened in schools, it would be irresponsible not to have an armed presence there. We protect everything of value in this country. We have armed guards at our banks. We have armed guards at our stadiums. Yet our kids, who are supposed to be our most prized possession, many times we're leaving them unprotected, and that's not the right thing to do. We need to have officers there to keep our kids safe.
You're opposed. Why?
I'm opposed because children go to school each and every day, and they go there, and yes, they're expecting it to be a safe haven, but to have the presence of an armed guard, it's just not necessary. Schools, the state of New Jersey already have safety officers in school. If someone is trying to get in the school with a gun, they're going to get in, and things will happen. But at this point, I think that if schools continue to practice the programs that are in place that the state of New Jersey has already instituted for preparation in classroom in case things happen, I think our kids will be fine. But the specter of having an armed guard in a school each and every day, to walk past it every day, I believe it does have a mental impact on our children, and I just don't think it's necessary.
Well, as she noted, there are some schools that already have police officers in them. They're school resource officers. They're not walking up and down the hallways with their guns out in their hands. They're community police officers. They're trained. They've assimilated, for the most part, into the school atmosphere. And I think that, you know, with all due respect to the Assemblywoman and people that may be sensitive to this issue, I would much rather offend their sensibilities and have them upset with me or anybody else that's making that decision, and I have to call them on the phone and say, I'm sorry, but your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your cousin is dead because we didn't have the police officer there or an armed security officer trained to stop that threat. We're talking about response time. It could be 10 to 15 minutes depending on where the calls are routed before an officer gets there.
But our responsibility is to make sure that guns don't get in the hands of the wrong people. And if we start there, then we don't have that need. And right now, New Jersey, as well as other states across this country, need to take in consideration what the gun laws are and start making changes. Now, if we make those changes, then we avoid some of the things that have happened. We need to make sure that people who are not mentally sound or stable, that they don't have the opportunity to have guns. We need to make sure that people don't have assault weapons, because who needs an assault weapon in their home? No one needs it. We need to make sure that ammunition doesn't allow people to fire off more than 10 rounds at a time. We don't need those types of things here in this country, and that's where we need to begin. We can't solve gun violence with additional guns. And that's not how we solve it.
She makes some valid points with respect to health issues and mental health, but we have to be very careful that we don't take a broad brush and say, let's eliminate all firearms.
Well, Mayor, for instance, in the issue of a woman who put a gun in her child's backpack, how do you avoid situations like that?
Well, the thing is that you're never going to have one...
How does an armed guard help in a situation?
Well, what it does is that you have somebody on site. The difference is that here's the reality. If a gunman walks into a school, somebody's going to dial 911 and hope that the police get there as quick as possible. And every minute is precious. She's talking about high-capacity rounds and high-capacity magazines. It takes seconds to shoot 10 rounds, 50 rounds, 20 rounds. You know, if an officer is there, an armed guard is there, he can save people's lives.
He can save people's lives, and he can also take a life. We do not need to have them in the school. Listen, every police...
What about the cost factor?
There's a serious cost factor to it, because the school districts are going to have to pay for that security guard. Now, the cost factor is also psychological. You have an officer in the classroom or an armed guard in the school. My child goes to that school. Why should I feel comfortable in believing that that officer doesn't have some kind of psychological problem or some sort of issue that particular day and decides to take it out on the people in that classroom? Why shouldn't the teacher have a gun?
Your reaction to two different things. One, the president's proposal, and two, the governor's proposal. They're different. What do you say?
Well, I think that, again, both of them, in some respects, have been speaking to enforcing the laws that are already in the books. I think there has to be some national standards. I think the president spoke to that.
Well, the assault weapons ban was indeed banned, so it's not on the books.
Well, I don't think...
And it needs to come back.
I think there should be a ban with respect to fully automatic weapons, but I think that sometimes people are lumping into this assault assault weapon ban, semi-automatic weapons. New York just rushed to pass a law that's creating confusion and problems in different areas.
It's the toughest gun control law in the country,
we have to make sure that we're not having emotional knee-jerk reactions that are weakening the private citizen, the law-abiding citizen's ability to protect themselves. Because the reality is, there was a report that came out over the summer that referred to a 2009 study that said there's over 310 million guns as of 2009 in the U.S. that were non-military. She can pass all the laws she wants. The bad guy's still going to secure that weapon from the trunk of a car. He's still going to find an illegal gun because he doesn't care about the laws.
And what do you say to those, the two proposals from the president as well as
with regard to what the president's proposals, I stand by the president's proposal. With regard to the governor talked about violence.
Creating a task force.
Right, creating a task force. And he talked about basically a pandemic of violence, and that the violence is an issue. And it is an issue. And both the governor and the president recognize that mental health is an issue. And that issue and other issues need to be addressed first and foremost, because Eldridge has a point. People are rushing to do things to respond to what happened in Newtown, Connecticut. And certainly over 1,000 people have been murdered by guns since then. But we cannot rush into anything, and putting an armed guard into every school is rushing. And we need to stop.
Thank you so much for joining us. I wish we could talk about it more, but we run out of time. Thank you again.